All right, welcome back to the showcast for this week's interview. So our guest this week has been in, well, let's kind of be honest, what hasn't he been in, really? Both movies, television, the list goes on, from 24, The OC, CSI, to Aaron Brockovich, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. You've definitely seen this guy's face, but now he can be seen every Thursday night on Fox's hit show, Bones. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. TJ Thyne. TJ, how you doing?
Yay, thank you for that intro. That was very nice. I'm very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem. So Adam and I are pretty proud to say that in an indirect way, we kind of have a weird connection to the show Bones, at least through one of the actors, in that David Boreanaz is from Philadelphia, which is where we're from.
Well, you're limiting yourself. You're connected to more than just David, because Michaela Conlin's from Allentown. Michael Grant Terry, who plays Wendell, is from out there. Our crew, we've got like a bunch of guys from Philly on the crew. The crew of Bones is basically made up of Philly, Boston, which is where I'm from, and several others, and Canada, where, Tamara, Hart Hanson, so there's a bunch of Canadians, everyone from Philly and from Boston all on the Bones set. So you guys have many more than you realize that are on Bones.
Is production?
Ben, aren't you from New Jersey? You live in Philly, or Philadelphia, but aren't you from New Jersey originally?
I am. How did you know that? I'm curious.
I have people.
I
don't have people.
You did your own research.
I have a laptop. I had to look you guys up. I didn't want to get on the phone with some strangers.
No, we like that. We do like that. You're one of the few people that's actually done that. That's, done your research. I mean, obviously we do our research on you. But you're one of the few people we've talked to who's actually done the research on us. And I am from Jersey. I was born in Jersey. I lived over there till about 96, and then I've been living in PA ever since.
What part of Jersey are you from?
I'm actually from Central Jersey, a little town called, there's two towns. More people know Florence, but there's a tinier town kind of attached to it in the same county called Roebling. Which Roebling is actually pretty historic to LA. There was an old steel mill, not to bore you with history in my town, but there was an old steel mill in Roebling, and the Roebling steel mill is actually the ones that they're the factory that built the cable for the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
And
that's actually really cool.
Yeah, and a bunch of bridges in New York too. So I mean, the Roebling's got a tie into the country and most people really don't even know about the town.
Is it still open? Is the factory still open?
No, the factory closed down probably in I think the late 70s, and was abandoned for a long time. And then I was actually a fireman in Jersey, and there was a huge fire at the steel mill that destroyed most of the remaining buildings. So now most of the areas, but what was left of the factory was kept there and kind of preserved, and now there's a actual Roebling and steel mill museum in place of where the other places are that you can go and visit.
Okay, I got you. But how do you go from being a fireman to finding your way into radio?
Long story, but health issues.
I'm curious who's doing the interview.
Sorry, this is my nature. I know.
No, we don't mind at all.
No, yeah, it's very rare that we get interviewed in return, so I like it.
Curious though, do you know what part of Allentown Michaela's in? Because that's right about where I live right now.
She's I'm smack dab in Allentown. I'm not sure. I don't know the streets and stuff, but her family's still there.
We're gonna have to try and have her on too then.
Yeah, she's great. Oh my God, you guys will love her anyway. Honestly, her and David and again Michael Grant Terry, they're all, and they talk of Philly very, very often, and they're quite proud of it too. So you guys have a big contingency over in the Bones world.
Yeah, that's awesome. But moving on a little bit more to switching the interview back towards you in your direction. As I had said in the intro, you have a very long career and a lot of points to it. You pretty much have a career, and it's nothing, disrespectful or anything like that, but you pretty much have had a small career or a large career of small roles leading up to Bones. And now you pretty much went from a long career of one-offs to a long stint in the same character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was that an easy transition to make, going from just one-off to one-off to one-off to now a show that's lasted 10 seasons?
Yeah, it's kind of trippy. You never, I mean, like, it would have been great if the first audition I ever got invited to was something that was a large role and, you know, on a show that was going to last a decade or more. But it just didn't really work out that way. I had a really hard time getting an agent in LA. It's not so easy. And I grew up doing a bunch of theater, and then did some commercials and stuff. I moved around the country quite a bit, and so I would kind of try and do commercials and things like that when I could. And then I decided when it was time for college, I wanted to go to Southern California. I knew that. I got one of the big college guidebooks and ripped out Southern California and threw the rest of the book away. And I was like, okay, what colleges can I go to? I looked at SC, and I really loved their program, their television, film, and theater program, so I decided to go there. But then you graduate, and you think, you know, of course, you're like, oh, they're going to connect me. Now it's done, right? I'm here. I've got an education. Everyone's going to be so impressed with the BSA for USC. You know, not the case. You can't seem to get arrested, you know, in terms of agents and managers and such. You never have enough credits and things. So I got into this point where, you know, I knew that I wanted to do television and film, and at that time, I mean, that was a while ago. TV was not what it is today. I mean, it was. There were a few shows that we were all kind of watching, but really, it was very heavily, you know, network television stuff. You didn't have all the genius cable shows and amazing programming that you have today. So everyone was still trying to get like into the movie world. That was really what we wanted. And I just couldn't figure out how to do it. And I would sit like night after night writing to every agency in town, and I just kind of would get rejected from all of them. Until one day I kind of looked at it and I thought, okay, look, these guys are in the exact same situation I am. They are probably so afraid of losing their job and taking a risk on something because they're trying to prove themselves. You know, they're all probably at a point in their agencies where they either have a career that they've worked hard for and they want to keep it that way, or they're trying to build their own. And if they take a risk on some kid from college that has absolutely no credits to show for it, they're taking a risk that's not necessarily going to play out in their favor, so they might think. So I thought the only thing I can do is get out there and try and build a resume of credits. And if I don't have an agent and I don't have a manager to do it, then I gotta figure some other way out. So I started realizing that the best way to do it was to get in touch with casting directors directly, and I didn't really know how to do that other than writing to them and stuff. So I started coming up with creative, clever ways of kind of designing envelopes and such that would maybe get my letter opened. I started working in a restaurant that was 90% industry people because I thought, well, this will be a great opportunity to meet people. I mean, I was just kind of trying to do anything and everything to get myself in front of casting directors. I started participating in workshops and showcases that casting directors and casting offices would participate in, and you know, after a while, I would just get maybe one casting director that would say, "Hey, this guy's pretty good," and they would bring me in for a one-line role and something.
Yeah.
And then I never let them alone. I would just kind of hound them, like, you know, you got other things. I know you do this other show, and you do that other show. And so they would bring me back, and then I'd be able to get another thing and another thing. And then if you got lucky, like if it was at Warner Brothers, at Warner Brothers, you would go in and audition for Friends, and right next door was the casting director for ER, and right next door to that was the casting director for another hit show at the time. So I just kind of walked this hallway in Building 140 at the Warner Brothers lot and would just drop off my resume and headshot when I would go for one audition. And, you know, work begets work, and I would just be getting little things. And I would take anything. I mean, I was just kind of like, as long as it wasn't, like, really raunchy or gross or weird, I would take it. And so, you know, one line here, one line there, and I just felt like, you know, the whole purpose behind it was just pad my resume with credits so that eventually some agency will say, yeah, we'll take him, which is kind of what happened. I finally wedged myself into an agency that has since gone away. It was a tiny little agency, but I kind of wedged myself. Even they didn't want to take me, but I kind of convinced them to take me on. And then I realized shortly after that, that didn't really necessarily solve the issue. You know, you think now, okay, cool, there's this great title at the top of my resume. There's an agency's name. So now I'm good, right? I just have to sit back and answer the phone, right? You know, and I mean, I realized quickly the work I had been doing on my own and busting my butt and meeting producers and casting directors, that really is what you have to continue to do. So that's what I did, and I just kept at it, and that agency eventually went away, and I moved to one other. But really, even with Bones, I knew the director. I had worked with the director, Greg Utanis, on a show called CSI New York. We worked with each each other in that. We had tried to work with each other a few times before that, and it didn't work out. And so then Greg, we were talking one night, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to direct this pilot. It's called Brennan for Fox." And I was doing 24 at the time. And I said, "Oh, who are you considering for the roles?" And he said, "Well, we're thinking of David Boreanaz from Angel." And I said, "Oh yeah, I worked with David on Angel." And he said, "Oh, and there's this young actress we've already cast named Michaela Conlon." And I said, "Oh yeah, I worked with her on MDs." And then he said, and we're thinking, we don't know who the lead's going to be yet. And then he said, you should actually look at this role. There's this role of this 45-year-old guy. He's this doctor who kind of wears shorts and flip-flops and has big glasses and looks like a bug, and he talks about bugs all the time. And so he sent me the script, and I looked at it and called him the next day, and I said, "I don't think I'd really play him that way. I mean, he seems to be this really eager guy to me that isn't so, obviously like he's a bug. Like, it's more like he knows science really well, and he can just rattle it off, and he's kind of flippant with it, but he's much more interested in kind of, the experiments that he does and like the interactions in the office, like what's happening with who and what." So he's like, "All right, come in and meet these guys and go for it. Just see what happens." And so I went in, and it was great. Yeah. So then that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say that character turned into Dr. Jack Hodgins, the man you've been playing for the past 10 years. I'm curious, how would you say your character, Jack Hodgins, has kind of developed and changed between, season 1, which probably feels like forever ago, and now in season 10?
When I first started playing Hodgins, I really saw him as the mad scientist, and it was kind of the modern day mad scientist, right? What would a mad scientist of today look like? And he's a highly skilled scientist, right? I mean, he has advanced degrees in entomology and botany and mineralogy and such, so he knows what he's talking about, and he happens to come from an extremely affluent upbringing and family, so he doesn't need the money. So that's another thing, a clue into the character. Well, this guy really loves what he does, because he doesn't even have to work, but this is what he's choosing to do with his life. So he was really so invested. And again, the mad scientist part, the mad part of it was he kind of had these anger management issues. He wears this green rubber band, which I put on for the pilot, and my character has been wearing for the last 10 years. I always have it on when I'm shooting. And in the early days, like Angela Montenegro, Michaela's character, would kind of snap the rubber band and kind of, piss Jack off and stuff. And he just kind of was this, like, very, like, wound tight, angry, bitter, hated the government, would really, like, kind of despise Booth's character, played by David Boreanaz, because he was part of that machine, and Big Brother and stuff. And that was really kind of how he was, which was it was fine. It was great. It was great if the show went for a season or 2 or 3. But then eventually it's just exhausting to kind of play that, like, really wound tight, angry, bitter guy. So ever so gently as the show continues, I started trying to kind of release some of that and let a little bit more of TJ come into it, where it was just, there is some kind of fun-loving part of this character that's positive and happy and, loves what he does. And so I found strategic places over the season to let Jack loosen up a little bit, his character in relationship with Zach, Addie, when Zach left the show, when Eric left the show, and the character of Zach kind of went to prison. That was really tough on Jack, and the gravedigger, Jack being kind of buried alive, that was really tough on him, and him trying desperately to get into a relationship with Michaela's character, Angela, and that was never really happening, and that was tough on him. But ever so gently, each of those things started to kind of, like, find light. He went and saw Zach at prison. It was okay. Zach was okay. He had closure with the gravedigger when they finally caught the gravedigger and killed the gravedigger. He finally wooed Angela to the point where she actually came around, and they got married. And so in each of those moments, I get to release some of that, like, anger stuff. So now I think the Jack Hodgins of today, like season 10, is way closer to me as a person. He's really giddy, and he's happy, and he loves what he does, and he loves the people he works with, and that's kind of the impression that he gets. Some of the fun things that Jack does now, he's so giddy and childlike when it comes to experiments, and yet, some of the fun moments, his interactions with Booth and stuff now, like, he'll give Booth a big bear hug, and you can tell that Booth is so awkward and uncomfortable, and Jack's just smiling with his eyes closed while hugging him, and that's kind of much more fun than the beginning. So, as you can tell, I talk a lot, so at one point you're just completely overwhelmed with what I'm saying, to say, okay, we got it.
No, it's not a problem at all. We'd rather you talk a lot than not at all. So.
Yeah, that would be awkward. Have you had that happen in interviews where someone's just like, yes. No?
Yeah.
Actually, no. We have had actually the opposite where somebody has talked for a really long time, probably about 5 minutes. But it was one of the situations where we like pretty much could have walked out of the room for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think I did the introduction, and then 10 minutes later we finally got to ask the first question. It was just.
Yeah. All right, so I'm not that bad. So
No. You're fine. Trust me.
Yeah, this was more of a spiel than it was an interview at that point. It was a little political. But anyway,
gotcha.
For your first few years on Bones, I'm sure a lot of, like you said, with all Hodgins' degrees and everything like that, I'm sure a lot of it was reading a script, when it came to the science aspect of it. But after all these years, have you learned anything scientifically from the role?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I mean, being on television for 10 years, think about 10 years ago. There were no smartphones. We were all kind of learning to text, right? I mean, and texting was like, press the same button 3 times to get to the to the letter that you wanted.
Which I loved, by the way. I missed that.
You liked that?
Yeah,
because
well, they used to have that, like, I think it was like T9 or something, where you could set it up so it was like predictive texting. So you could hit E47 and it kind of knows what word it made texting so much. Like, I didn't have to look at my phone to text.
Yeah, modern day autocorrect, which is a pain in the butt now, but at the time.
It probably made it a little dangerous because it made texting and driving easier at that point, but it was still a little easier to text.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is reading the autocorrect things where it just goes wrong. It's so funny.
And it happens a lot, too.
I had a buddy of mine is helping me right now at my house. I'm trying to redo this bathroom I've been trying to do for a long time. So anyway, he's helping me out because he lays tile. That's kind of what he does. Maybe I shouldn't share the story. No, I think it'll be all right. So he's laying tile, and I was on set. I was working away, and he texted me just to kind of say that he was finishing up. So he said, "Hey, I'm going to do some men on your bathroom floor, and then I'm going to leave for the night." And immediately another text came in. He said, "I'm going to do cement on the bathroom floor." And that moment is like, there was that moment where he reread it and was like, "Oh shit!" And I love it. It's one of my favorite things, the autocorrect thing. Sorry. So you were asking me about early day Hodgins and have I learned anything? So 10 years ago. Even the internet, yes, we had it and we were all using it and we were good at it, but it just, I was like going and meeting with entomologists at the time at universities nearby and still kind of checking books out of the library kind of thing. Well, not that dramatic, but I was buying books at Barnes & Noble when those still existed everywhere. But it was just, it was much more like tangible, textbooks and things like that I was researching things. But now in today's day, man, we've just all gotten so reliant, and it's so much easier now to kind of be on a show like this because, I can come home and I can type in Spodoptera nephigalium tetranecus ordicae, and it pops up, and I know what it is, and I can define it and figure it out, see what it looks like, and all that happens. You also have to spell it. Yeah, well, there's that. But I think it's hard not to pick things up as you go along. Emily is probably the most educated out of all of us with this because she really retains the stuff. At some point, I think my brain kind of taps out and is like, there's only so many Latin words you can learn and retain when it comes to defining bugs and chemicals and, but Emily, she's got it down. Because ultimately, being an anthropologist, her character is really just dealing with the same bones over and over and over again. So for case after case after case, you're talking about the same, the same body parts. So she's really retained it, and she's amazing. And you could literally point to any bone in the body, and Emily knows it and can tell you lots about it. Whereas for me, it's kind of like, unless it's a bug that I've really had to kind of come back to several times or a chemical, then I haven't retained it too much. It's funny in life, like friends will send me images and be like, "Hey, this crazy insect just came into my house. What is it?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I don't know. I hate insects."
I guess in some ways it could almost be like a thrown to the wolves college education.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's probably it. Do what you got to do to get by, and then you pass that course, that script is done, and you move on.
Yeah, it should give you some kind of degree when Bones is finished.
Yeah, really.
Bones is wrapped up.
The good thing is that I know that there have been, over the years, over the seasons, there's been a lot of the the medical field and specifically the field of anthropology and entomology and such that have kind of reached out to us at times and stuff. And it's nice to know that they, for the most part, were pretty good on this show. They're pretty impressed with how close we keep it. I mean, clearly there are times when we take liberties and we have to it's about entertainment. But
right.
But no, they're actually pretty good. And we're pretty hard even on each other. I mean, simple thing. The simplest of things is you couldn't touch that if you weren't wearing gloves. No, don't put your hands there. And I mean, we're really, it's pretty funny to see us on set, how we're on each other. Like, that wouldn't be there. You can't do that, not in an annoying way, but kind of just more we're just all really, clear on the need to keep things sanitized and sanitary and such stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we keep going back to the fact that it's been on for 10 years because, I mean, these days it's really hard to keep a show on for that long. And Bones has kind of become like the NCIS or CSI of Fox. And I know they did do the one spinoff, was it the Finder, I think is what
the Finder.
Are you a little surprised that there haven't been a few more attempts at a Bones spinoff? Because CSI and NCIS obviously have, umpteen amount of spinoffs.
Yeah, I mean, those shows are. I actually did a few of those shows. Those are a few of the shows on my the resume you were talking about before. And they're such franchises. I mean, they really are, and they do so well, and they are so good at what they do. So it makes sense they can spend things off. I should say this. I love The Finder. I got to actually. My character, Jack Hodgins, got to actually cross over and do an episode of The Finder with Jeff Stoltz and Hart Hansen. So that was really fun for me. I actually think that one episode of The Finder says a lot more about Hodgins than we've learned in several seasons of Bones. So it was really fun. I was a big fan of the show trying to go. But having said that, the truth of the matter is that spinoff was kind of they kind of call it a backdoor spinoff where it's not really a spinoff. They basically, 20th and Fox love working with Hart, and Hart loves working with them, and so every season he, comes out with another pilot. I mean, it's just part of his contract, I think, with the studios and the network. So he comes up with a new pilot, and when The Finder came out, he had adapted yet another book, which is what The Finder was. And I think what it was is Fox felt like, hey, Bones is very successful. Is there a way we can link this new show we're talking about? So they brought Jeff's character in one episode just to kind of be like, look at this new character. And then they were like, and now we're going to spin it off. So it's not really a traditional spin-off. A real spin-off, I think, would be something like, if this show ever did end on its own or we wanted to kind of spin something off. But imagine even my character, Hodgins. If Hodgins kind of, maybe the show ends, but Hodgins isn't done yet. And he wants to feel like he wants to keep the science going. He's got his money again, and he feels like he can hire the interns themselves, and you create a show called Squints, and it's all about, Hodgins and the Squint team, and maybe they don't work for the government anymore, and maybe now it's a private agency, and Hodgins can focus more on his conspiracy theories and go into deeper things like that. And that something like that would, in my mind, be like a genuine spinoff.
I think you got something going here.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. I'm ready for the end. When it comes, I'll be ready to keep going.
Like a mix between X-Files and Bones.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, think about it. I mean, they're bringing the X-Files back. Clearly, there's a big push for the X-Files to come back. David Duchovny had come in and directed an episode of Bones. We're actually shooting on the old X-Files stage 6, where the lab is the old X-Files stage.
Oh, cool.
When they were in LA. And, but yeah, I feel like that, there are stories there. So but that would be a spin-off. Or if you took, again, one of the interns. So The Finder, I don't know that it was a real, genuine spin-off. But, they attempted it and found it. I think what's nice about Bones over at Fox is that it has been kind of standing its ground all this time, right? I mean, It's a show they can rely on. Look, it's not a hit show. I mean, I know they say it's a hit show, and that's very kind, and it's nice to hear, the word HIT put. But the reality of the situation is I think that it's more of it's a strong show that has a certain fan base whom we love that has stuck with us and been dedicated to our show ever since. It's really why Bones is still on the air. Also, it does extremely well internationally. It's a really good show overseas. And because the network of Fox, in the last decade, it's really, I mean, this is no surprise, but it's struggled so much in the last 10 years to find new programming. I mean, man, we've been through, even since Bones has been on the air, we've been through, I think 3, maybe 4 network heads. So we've seen the changing of the guard that many times while our show's been on the air. And several of those guards, by the way, came in saying, okay, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to kill Bones. Like, that's gone. That was the last person's show. That's going to go. But let me quickly put some of my ideas out there and create some new shows, and then I'll replace Bones. And, it never got replaced. And nothing ever got as good of ratings as Bones did when it came to the 1-hour shows on Fox. It wasn't until Empire that Fox had a runaway 1-hour show. There were moments, the Prison Break, first episode of Prison Break, it was like, oh my God, here's their new hit show. And, and then after a season or two, it was suddenly like, there's only so much you can do with that. And there were big shows that they were planning on. Terra Nova, I remember everyone was like, oh my God, Terra Nova's going to be huge. They're spending so much money on it. It's going to be amazing. Things just kind of came and went. So a show like Terra Nova where they sunk a ton of money into it, and, everyone expected and thought at the time, of course, they wouldn't spend the money on it if they didn't think so, that it was going to be a runaway hit. But it wasn't. So again, the landscape at Fox was one in which Bones had the opportunity to grow its roots and really try and become a show. We were allowed the opportunity to find our audience and keep going and growing, whereas again, if we had been on CBS season 1, we probably would have been canceled after the first season because the rating would be nothing near like, well then we don't really know. I guess maybe if it was on CBS, the ratings would have been higher in numbers. But it's also in today's day and age, look, I watch shows, I watch cable shows, Walking Dead and House of Cards and Downton Abbey and Game of Thrones. Those are the shows that I'm tuning into. But we all know that even though those shows don't have enormous ratings, they do on cable, but compared to network shows, they don't compare. But it's funny how we've reached to this place where even though the overnights are still being used as kind of the how's the show doing, it's not necessarily a truthful tell anymore of who's watching what, right? Your DVR numbers are much more telling. Your +5 days and that. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting for the networks in the next couple of years of how they start really figuring out what shows are true hits and what people are tuning into.
Yeah.
Binge watching it. Yeah.
I was going to say, Netflix changed a lot of things in that aspect. I know a lot of people who watch shows somewhat religiously, but they wait until the last season comes out on Netflix to watch it. So, that, going to your point, that doesn't help the overnights at all, but you're still, that show is still getting a lot of viewers.
Yeah, again, binge watching is so fun. I do that now. There are moments where I'm like, well, I do want to watch this show, but I'm going to wait till next week so I can watch 2 in a row. It's weird. We're all just getting into this new way of watching television. So, it'll be interesting how it goes. But it's been a really fun ride. I think truly, everyone always says this about shows. Like they thank their fans, and they should, because all of us are working only because we have people tuning in to watch what we do. But there is a truth to the fact that the Bones fans are so dedicated, way more than I think even other shows. I think even some of the shows we talked about already, like people tune into some of the other, episodic type television because it's, they've just it's what they do on Thursday night or Friday night or whatever night they watch. But the Bones fans, they are just committed to it, and they know the show better than we do, and we're only on the air still because of them. And I think we all know that, and we respect that, and we're trying to bust our butts every day still in writing scripts and producing scripts and acting scripts that will keep those guys excited and still wanting to watch.
Yeah, Fox is actually one of my favorite channels to watch. There's a ton of great shows, including Bones on Fox. But Fox is also what I call, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way either to Fox, but Fox is what I call my heartbreak network, because there's been a ton of shows on Fox that I have grown to love over the short time that they were on that just end up not making the mark. And it's not Fox's fault, obviously. It's due to the ratings of the show. But you mentioned Terra Nova. Prison Break was another one I was a big fan of. Firefly, which only went, I think, about 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Fox has so many great shows on, and I'm so glad that Bones has made that 10-year run. I know I've looked online. I haven't seen any confirmation, so I don't know if it's anything you can confirm. Will Bones be back for season 11?
We don't know. We still don't know. I just wrapped the finale on Friday. I think Emily, I just went to set real quick to do some ADR, and I think Em is still working today. And then basically we're done. I mean, they're going to finish up. We've got 2 more episodes to kind of edit and finish through post-production, and then as of now, we have not a clue. I mean, there's just, we don't know. I don't see why it wouldn't come back, but there's a lot of changes going on, so, yeah. I don't think I can say much more.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously we have our fingers crossed that it's going to come back for another season.
I think it will, and I can tell you that everyone wants it to, including all of us. Like, I think the entire cast and the writing staff, and I think we're all really wanting it to, and I think, honestly, even the network and the studio are really wanting it to. I think everyone's rooting for it to come back. It's just, there are so many things that, as you know, that networks and studios and people deal with.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with whether something wants to come back or not. But yeah, I think we're pretty close to being able to hear. But even the finale, I mean, it was one of those moments where we really didn't know. Stephen Nathan, as he was writing the finale, had no clue if he was writing a season finale or a series finale. And again, because we've had such dedicated fans for a decade, it would be sad if the show didn't end with a nice bang for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what to do, and there was talks leading up to it. Because we all originally thought, well, we're going to know before the finale. Before we get to the finale, we're going to know. Well, it didn't happen. And then we suddenly started thinking, well, are we going to do 2 endings? We talked about that. Like, maybe we'd shoot 2 separate endings. And then we talked about, no, forget it. We're just going to end the series. Let's just end the series. And then if it does come back, we can always kind of like pick back up where we were type thing. And, there was just back and forth. And then finally Stephen wrote an amazing finale that kind of, I think, does a really nice job of, if it has to be the series finale, which here's hoping it isn't, but if it has to be, it would work as one. And so many shows go through that. I mean, I think even Breaking Bad went through that, and, some really amazing shows have gone through that whole, I don't know if this is coming back, so I better end it in a way where if it had to be the final one, it could be. So that's kind of the boat we're in right now.
Yeah, I mean,
it's weird too. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, a show like Bones that's given Fox a great 10-year run, I would think that the network would at least be a little bit more understanding about it. And if the ratings were down or anything, which thankfully they're not, and they were getting ready to end the show, maybe they would just throw a bone your way and be like, you guys have given us a great 10 years. This is going to be your final season. We want to give you this opportunity to wrap this up.
I think we all expected what you said to be the way that it would be, how it would go down. But I also think that, Dana and Gary, who run the network now, who I'm an unbelievable fan of both of them, and they have been the studio for the entire length of Bones. So Bones really is their show. They oversaw Bones from day one, so it's their production. So that's nice because they're clearly fans of the show because it's their personal production. But they are in a completely different position than they were in just as studio. So I'm sure, again, there are so many things that cross their desk that they have to deal with and think about that we have no clue. To us, it's as simple as, hey, come on, it's a fun show. We've been on a long time. Let's do the fans. But I'm sure it just breaks down the thing that we wouldn't even think about that they have to make decisions on. So that's what I think really will boil down, because I actually do feel very confident that both Dana and Gary would absolutely pick the show up in a second if it was just about, are they fans of the show and are they fans of the show, or
right.
Or if it was going to end, I think they would be so kind and say, hey guys, I think it was the final thing, so let's go out with a bang. But I don't think they've let us know because, honestly, I think they are fans and they're really hoping themselves that it gets to go again. So I think once they figure out a few more things, then I think they can give the green light. And I don't know, I'm feeling very confident that they will.
Well, it's a little known fact they actually listen to our podcast all the time. So you made a strong push, and I'm feeling confident as well.
Good. See, we're good. Good.
I want to go back to your resume for a couple minutes again. All the different things that I had mentioned that were on there before. Like I said, you had a long career of work and a lot of different one-offs on a lot of different great shows that I've seen. I've watched every episode of, so I know I've seen you before, even before Bones. You mentioned Angel. I was a big fan of Buffy and Angel, so that's actually where I know David from. And the CSI shows I've seen. It's been on for 15 years, but I've seen every episode of CSI. As a big fan of CSI New York and Gary Sinise. So you've obviously worked with a ton of great and big name actors, Gary Sinise, Kiefer. Out of all those people that you've worked with, does it surprise you that you've gotten the opportunity to work with such big name actors like that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I did. I was on a film with where I was getting to watch Al Pacino work, and another film where I was getting to watch Robert De Niro work, and another film with Albert Finney, and yeah, I mean, it blows my mind, and I'm such a big fan, like you. I watch everything, and I mean, in this industry because I'm so giddy about entertainment and movies and television. So to suddenly be sitting across the table from Julia Roberts, or be acting in scenes with Jim Carrey, or Jack Nicholson, or whomever it is, Kiefer Sutherland, I really have to kind of keep the fan guy in me quiet so that the actor in me can kind of do his job. Otherwise, I'd just be like, oh my god. So yeah, no, I've been very, very lucky, and I mean, man, I've got a far way to go. I mean, I got to bust my butt to kind of get to that space where I can actually be working continuously, and I mean, your job's never done, right? So
yeah.
I'm very far from where I need to be, where I feel I'm just going to be able to be in that lucky space of getting a script, and one job goes down and you go right into another. But here's hoping I get to keep working with these guys and more and more.
Ben, how did you not mention Chuck Norris in all that?
Chuck Norris is awesome. Yeah, that was fun. I grew up. I grew up. I told you in Boston, and that's my hometown. But I moved around a lot. I lived in a lot of different parts of the U.S. and I was in Texas for quite a bit of that. So when Walker Texas Ranger came around, they flew me back. I auditioned for it in L.A. and I got the role, and they flew me back to Dallas, where I grew up, and it was so cool. I mean, it was so neat to be back there shooting Walker Texas Ranger. When you're in Texas growing up as a kid, that's what you watch, and like to be kind of like the Hollywood guy coming into town, and you know what I mean, and seeing my old friend. I mean, that was so cool. I mean, that just felt so neat. I did that with Michael Ironside, and because Michael Ironside, who is so funny. Oh my God, that guy's so funny. You can get him on the show. But he had to work. I forget what the situation was, but he had to do another project, so we had to shoot the 3 episodes in just 1 week. So we just kind of went back to back on that production. So I got to stay out there for like 3 weeks, but I only worked for like 5 days of that, and it was really neat. I got to see a bunch of friends and stuff. It was cool.
Yeah, 2 of the credits on your resume, I'm actually kind of jealous of, because they're still to this day, 2 of my all-time favorite sitcoms. It's one of your first roles. You did the role on Home Improvement as Todd.
Yeah.
And and the second one, because I'm a huge Tim Allen fan, that's probably my number 1 favorite sitcom still to this day of all time. But my second favorite sitcom of all time, I actually, when I read this on your resume, I had to go back and rewatch the episode just because I wanted to see it myself. You played a young doctor on Friends.
Yes, yeah, in the 100th episode. It was their 100th episode.
Yeah, the episode where Phoebe had the triplets.
Triplets. Yep, that's right, yeah.
So I can't imagine what working with that cast was like.
That was amazing.
Oh, I remember that episode.
Yeah. Yeah. That was really fun. I mean, it was incredible. And that show at the time, too, was, 5 seasons, 100 episodes. It was so cool. I mean, the entire country was watching that show. And so it was really neat to kind of be stepping through. But they were so nice, so welcoming. Yeah, I mean, it was typical sitcom where you bust your butt kind of leading up to the day of shooting, kind of rehearsing, working things out, working kinks out, and then the audience comes in, you're doing your dialogue, and, if they don't get a big enough house laugh, boom, they rewrite your stuff right there and hand you something else. You go again. Nope, didn't work. Do it again. Another joke. Nope, didn't work. Do it again. Another joke, and so the whole, she calls me Dookie Howser, and she's like, Dookie,
yeah.
And that was a rewrite. It was kind of the original, whatever we did kind of worked, but not, they felt like they could get more out of it, so they kept giving Lisa Kudrow some changes, but I think that was the second or third one that she got. And the audience just cracked up. So they're like, okay, that'll be a keeper. We'll call him Doogie. And then I think they added a line, too, with Giovanni Ribisi, who's her brother, and I think he comes back in and goes, oh, cool, you made him cry.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was an added one also. So, yeah, it was surreal. I mean, it was really neat. And that show more than any leading up to, because, again, I didn't have an agent. I was trying to, get, gigs and So to be on a show like that and be able to call my brothers and sisters and be like, I'm going to be on Friends, you know, I mean, it was such a huge thing. And Home Improvement, same thing. That was one of my very first, so there's titles of roles, right, that go on your resume. You're featured, so you know, there's background or featured extra. Excuse me, there's background or extra, and then there's featured extra, which means like maybe you're like just behind someone and you have a reaction to something that they do. And then there's featured, which would mean that you have maybe a line, you know, you actually say something, you speak, so you're featured with something. And then there's co-star. Co-star is like, well, you have a few lines, you know, and then there's guest star, which means you have an arc. There's a character arc, and you're kind of like a big part of the thing. And then there's recurring, where you come back more, your character comes back more and more. And so for me, you know, everything I had on my resume was featured. So I went in and auditioned for Home Improvement off of one of those workshops I was talking about, workshops or showcases or something like that. And that role was hot. I mean, my gosh, there were like 3 scenes or 4 scenes with Tim Allen. Like, I mean, and I just thought, oh my God, I mean, when I got that, I was so excited. I got paid a little bit more, and I got to hang out with them a little bit more, and oh man, it was so fun. I remember very, very vividly, like going to Kinko's and changing my resume and adding like my first co-star in Home Improvement, which was a huge show, and yeah, I was very proud of that. That was on my demo reel for a very long time.
Yeah.
Should still be on there.
Yeah, I know, right? It would be a good ending.
Yeah. I know recently, probably just over a month ago, which your birthday happens to be 3 days before my dad's birthday, so it's easy to remember.
Oh, wow.
You just turned 40 recently, right?
I did. I had a big birthday, yeah.
I was going to say happy birthday to you. Did you do anything special for the quote-unquote over the hill, even though I think that's probably, you know what they say, 50's the new 40 now or whatever it is, but 40's the new 30, so.
My family, I come from a big family. There's 6 of us. There's mom and dad, and then there's 6 kids, 3 boys and 2 girls. So, and I'm very close to all of them. So they actually all got together with my dearest, like, closest friends and put together this video for me. And it was just his birthday, like a 15-minute birthday video. Man, it was so amazing. And I got to have dinner with them and run around with them. And, you know, we were pretty low-key, but that's kind of how I am anyway. Go to the movies, have a great dinner, go home and play board games with brothers and sisters. It was perfect. And Mom made, you know, Italian food, and it was great. Everything was wonderful. It was the perfect birthday.
That's awesome. I know we're getting ready to wrap things up with you, but one of the last things I wanted to mention too is I checked out TJThyne.com, and apparently, and I checked out the TJ Skeletons. You have some updating to do, my friend. It seems like it's been a while.
It's funny you mentioned that, because that's a site, 2 amazing women, Sharon and Stephanie, run that site, and I actually, just before I got on the phone with you guys, I just had an interview with them. Periodically they'll call me and I'll go over there and do like a little chat or interview or something like that. But yeah, I need to go on there. I need to go back on there and see what's up. But there's updates on what'd you say? What's the TJ Skeletons? That's just kind of the resume stuff?
I think it's more like a Q&A kind of thing.
Okay, got you. Yeah.
Yeah, there hasn't.
Do some updating.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything on there, I think, since 2011.
Okay.
I saw.
Yeah,
I mean,
your 36th birthday, actually.
I mean, I can scratch it up to the success of Bones. You've just been a very busy person, so it's you know.
Yeah, no, that's really funny. I'll have to go on and peek at that, see what's what. That's really funny.
We will, if you want, we'll come on your website and you can interview us then. We can finish out the first portion of this.
So.
Yeah, I have so many questions. You guys are already kicking me off.
No. If you have questions for us, by all, okay. I was gonna say, by all means, go for it. We should, you know what? We should start a new segment on the podcast every once in a while. We have somebody come in and interview us.
Yeah.
What are you guys watching? Like, what are the shows currently on that you're actually tuning into and watching?
Well, I know Adam and I are both big Game of Thrones fans, so we're definitely watching that. Adam just got finished binge watching that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
House of Cards. I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out yet, but
I've watched all of them.
But the new Daredevil series on Netflix.
Oh, is that good?
It's amazing. Like,
okay.
Marvel has really stepped up their game with this. It's very dark, it's very gritty, but it's fight scenes, everything. I'm a huge fan, and it's so hard. See, I like the binge watch nature too. As I mentioned, CSI. I actually caught the first 7 seasons of CSI in a marathon on Spike. So before Netflix was, had it up.
That's old school binge watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where you sit through where an hour show takes an hour because of commercials.
Yeah.
So
everybody's thinking you have no life, Ben.
Well, back then I didn't. So
binge watching, you can still kind of have a life because you just kind of fit it in. Whereas, the old school watching each week, it's so tough, man. I just watched Veep again, like the newest episode of Veep, and it's so hard to have to wait. It's just, and Game of Thrones, like you said, it's just like, wait.
Well, I kind of try and have a little bit of self-control when it comes to House of Cards and Daredevil, mainly because the quicker I finish the season, the longer I have to wait for the next one.
I know, man.
So
you're not finished with House of Cards yet?
No, I'm maybe about 3 episodes in the House of Cards, 3 or 4 episodes in the House of Cards, and 3 or 4 episodes in the Daredevil. So I'm not completely finished either one of them yet.
Oh, it's so good. You're gonna love it.
I think I'm 10. I think I just watched 10 today or yesterday. So I'm getting there. I hear the cliffhanger at the end of the season is pretty crazy.
The whole so good. The acting and the writing, man. That's a great show.
So did you say earlier too that you're a Walking Dead fan?
A huge Walking Dead fan. And I binge watched that leading up to it too. I was kind of one of those people that like early on I was like, yeah, like everyone was like, TJ, you're gonna love it. And I was like, yeah, zombies, I don't know, and I was kind of caught in that whole like, yeah. And then finally, a buddy of mine was like, come on, you more than anyone knows that all television, great writing is about human nature. It's not about the subject matter it's surrounded by. And I thought, that's a good point. So I sat down and watched an episode. Oh my God, I ate it for breakfast. And I think I had to like haul butt to set a few times because I'm never late. I'm always on time for set or early. But there are a few times while watching Walking Dead, I came pretty close because I was just like, I gotta finish. Yeah, man, I'm just, that's a great show. God, everyone's so good on that.
Yeah, I've been a day one watcher of Walking Dead since the very beginning. I know this is probably a stupid question now after hearing how big of a fan you are, but if after Bones or in between Bones you were ever offered a role on Walking Dead, safe to say you take it in a heartbeat?
In a heartbeat. In any of those shows we mentioned, but I don't think I'm actually really allowed to. I mean, I think contractually it's fine, it's in the fine writing, but I kind of think there's, I'm sure I could ask and I could get permission. And because Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and actually even House of Cards are so different from Bones, it might be, they would probably say, yeah, sure, go ahead. But,
like a non-compete clause or something.
Yeah, they don't want to, we gotta be careful about, I mean, if it's on a Fox show, if Emily goes and does her sister show, or her sister comes and does our show, or if I went to go do Finder, it's a little bit more fun because you can kind of cross over. But if I went out and did another, if I did something that is very Bones-esque, it would, they'd be a little bit like, it would be very frowned at.
Yeah.
Zoe on Bones would be an interesting crossover.
She came on. She actually came on. She came on as Brennan's cousin? As her cousin, yeah.
I missed that.
It was fun. It was really fun. It was actually a fun one. That was a couple seasons ago, but yeah.
So, well, I know we would love to talk to you all night, so definitely, we're going to definitely try and get you on again, especially if Bones is picked up for a season 11. Which, definitely fingers crossed for that, because TJ, this has been so much fun. Like, honestly, we could talk to you all night.
Yeah, you guys were great. I really appreciate you having me on. And honestly, you should seriously reach out to David and Michaela and Michael. Those guys would love to be on, and you can talk Philly all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. We almost met David last year, but his schedule was very, very tight, so we didn't find a way to slip into there.
He comes into town for Comic-Con, which we had last year, so yeah, we almost crossed paths, but I'm sure his schedule is very tight in the brief amount of time that he's in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, they move him around quite a bit. He is quite busy, but he's a good guy, and I bet if you get a minute with him, he'd love to come on and have a chat.
Oh yeah, we'd love to have him on. Anybody from the rest of the cast. So talk us up. Give us a good recommendation.
It's a great cast too. I have to say, after 10 years of being with these guys, I mean, we're all still really good friends. We hang out outside the set, so it's a good group. We got lucky. We all got very lucky. We feel that way.
When Bones does have that final season, we'll have to do like a Bones special or something and have a few of you guys on the same podcast.
Well, here's hoping that that's not for years and years to come. But yeah, I like
Yeah,
it.
I mean, this will be, smart films will be extinct. It'll be something different.
Yeah, we'll be on to the next.
Actually,
All right,
it
guys.
won't
Well,
even be
thanks so
a
much for
podcast.
having me. I do appreciate it. It was lots of fun.
Yeah, no problem. We want to send everybody to your way. Your Twitter account is at TJ Thyne. So we want to recommend people follow you on there. Follow Bones at Bones on Fox. And of course, be sure to check out Bones every Thursday, 8, 7 Central. TJ, thanks again for joining us. This was great.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, stick around. We will be right back with the showcast in just a few.